All right, the next book I'm going to tell you about that I think I've already told you about, but I cannot remember how detailed I went in it, so I'm just going to bring it up, but I finally did finish it. It's called X, and it's written by Ilysah Shabazz. She is the daughter of Malcolm X, and she pretty much, I thought because of how big it is, she was gonna write like his whole life. And what she pretty much did is she takes the time, it's pretty much right after his father was killed and to the time he ends up going to prison. Now some people are like, Ryan, you giving away the book. Well, if you know the Malcolm X story, you know that happened to him. And she basically, based on journals and stories her father has told her and her mother has told her, she was able to write this book. What I love about it is it makes it a more, I wouldn't say more relatable, because I have not read his autobiography and I have not read his biography. But what I do think it takes it, she wrote it with Kekla Magoon, and she brings on a level that's easy to me to understand. And you see how he's battling. Out of all his brothers and sisters, you can tell how he's battling and transitioning from when he moves up north to Boston with his sister. And he was always told growing up from his parents, we don't buy anything on credit. If you don't have the money to buy it, you don't buy it. And he ends up buying a suit on credit, and he was conflicted because this is not what I was taught. He was taught not to eat pork, and then all of a sudden he felt comfortable eating pork. He was comfortable with his afro hair, and then all of a sudden, because of the ways of North and some of the black people up there, he felt a need to conk his hair. And for those who don't know what conk is when you take potato, lye, and I think something else, and you pour it on your hair to make it straight, pretty much relaxer. So you see this transition of this young man who eventually even his brothers, his younger brothers and sisters are looking at him like, something's not right about you. Something's different about you. You went up north and now you're different. You're not the same. Malcolm got into a lot of trouble. And some of it was not necessarily he was being disrespectful or being bad when he was younger. His mom, I forgot what he did, and I wish I remember that scene, but pretty much he did something. They were either stealing watermelons or they were stealing from someone's garden, and the people caught him, and they were white, and they knew where his mom worked. Where his mom was very fair-skinned to the point you could not tell whether she was white or black, so she was able to get this job where the owner thought she was white. So Malcolm, is like brown skin, and she brought up Malcolm and his brother. I want to say it was Filbert was his name, and she and the guy or the girl, I can't remember who it was, but I remember the person was white, and you could tell they were being hateful. They snatched up Malcolm and his brother and took him to their job, to the mom's job. And the person said, I'm coming to bring her children here because were doing what they're not supposed to be doing. And the owner's like, those black, they're black. I don't hire people of color. I don't hire black people. She said she works here. And when the woman came out, his mom came out, she admitted, yeah, those are my kids. And she wouldn't lie about it. And at the end of the day, she could have. Because she could have kept her job. And because when she lost her job, they struggled, because it was by 8 or 9 of them. And she struggled to keep food on the table. Malcolm was saying how, told through his perspective, how they would get dandelion soup. They would just soak soup in a water, and that's what they had to eat. So he would steal stuff, but his mom would never want to know where it came from, or if she found out it was stolen, they wouldn't eat it. They were trying to get her on welfare. She refused to take it. And what you find out, that I missed that the mom and the dad were good friends with Marcus Garvey. And they were working with them, and that's what they believe. That's what Malcolm believes the reason why he was killed. The father was killed because of his teaching and his practicing and trying to get black people to be more independent of the system and to stand up for their rights. So again, what it does, it goes from present to past. Like he'll be in Boston, and then it'll go back to when he lived in, oh gosh, and I'm mad how I forgot that quick, but like I said, I read so many books. But like it starts off with him in Harlem in 1943, and then it'll go back to when Boston, 1941. Lansing, Michigan. And one thing you learned, that he was very smart. Family was very smart, very bright, but he just got caught up on what we would call the thug life. And it just shows him going through that transition. And finally, when he gets arrested, him and his best friend and this girl he dated, and eventually they do get caught. And if you know the Malcolm X story, that's how he turned his life around, was when he ended up going to prison. So this one's like another one. It was over 300 some pages. It took me longer to read this one, I will admit, but towards the end, it picks up. At the end of the book, it has a timeline of his life. It shows you his family tree. It shows you the different transitions of what his life, what was going on during that time, because it does talk about the 1930s, the 1940s, World War II, the 1950s, the imprisonment, the awakening, and the 1960s is when he came into the civil rights movement. So, but it just shows you that transition that a lot of our Black boys go through, where they come from well-to-do homes as far as education and being taught the right thing, and they just get caught up in the streets. And I think with Malcolm's situation, it was more of he didn't see how fighting for civil rights, he didn't see the purpose of it in the midst of him being out on his own, because he saw what happened to his family. He saw what happened to his mom. He didn't see anything profiting for it. He didn't see the long haul. I mean, he at one point embraced the N-word and thought, I'll always be that, and that's who I'm going to be. Why not? So it's a good read. Boys and girls will be into it. So again, it's called X. There's actually a novel version written about Betty Shabazz that I'm going to hopefully read soon. So again, X by, and I might be saying her name wrong, Ilysah Shabazz, who is the daughter of Malcolm X.